Hi everyone, welcome back to Buying a Home in Queenstown property series. Today I'd like to focus on sections. There's many of you who would love to build your own home and also a lot of you sellers who own a section. Today I'd like to focus on geotechnical reports, why they're important and who can you contact if you'd like to commission one. I'd like to introduce to you Peter Forrest from GCL, Grant Consulting Limited. Peter has been in the area and working in Queenstown, and he has all the answers for us. Hi Peter, how are you today?
I'm very good, thank you.
Thank you for seeing me. I know you're very busy.
No, you're welcome. Nice to be here.
Look, I'd like to ask a few questions about geotechnical reports. So, can I ask, why is commissioning a geotech report for a new site a good idea?
Well, there's the old adage, out of sight, out of mind, and what people can't see, they don't think about. And obviously, when you're buying a new section, it's just bare ground, and people don't really think about what's underneath it. Mm-hmm. And often, not always, but often, the ground can carry significant risk. Unforeseen ground conditions, when you actually come to the construction stage, can cost significantly in both time and extra over costs for foundation design, etc., etc. So having a greater understanding of your site gives you much more confidence in what you're buying, but not only that, it gives your design team so much more confidence in what they're doing and what they're designing on.
Yes, that's right. And I think from my perspective, when I'm selling a section, having a geotech report in my hand that I can pass on to buyers, it's of benefits to them as well.
It certainly is. It most certainly is. And knowing what you have to deal with from an early stage just allows that sort of commensurate design right from the word go. And it also, in the extreme case, it can actually help you make that decision as to whether that site is viable for you.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, people need to know it before they commit to a purchase.
They do. Yes. It's a big investment.
Yeah. So in Queenstown Lakes region, what are the typical risks in our region here in Queenstown?
Well, the obvious one is that this is a seismically active area. The Alpine Fault is not so far away. So there's obviously the risk of earthquakes and ground shaking, and also liquefaction, which most people will be familiar with now because of Christchurch.
That's right, yes.
Also, now that the demand for housing is increasing all the time, the amount of available land is obviously shrinking. Yeah. So sites are becoming more marginal in terms of the ground conditions and the engineering that's required on them. So, for example, the areas around our lakes and our rivers can be quite soft, and obviously that has an impact on the foundation design. Slope stability is a bit of an issue, especially on some of these gap sites up on the hill, around Queenstown Hill, Fern Hill, Goldfield Heights, etc.
Everyone wants a view, so that's where they go, don't
right.
they?
And unfortunately, with the view, often you've got a hillside to contend with, and that can be in the form of landslides, or soil slipping down the slope, or indeed often rockfall or rock instability as well, which has to be considered. Yes. We also have some sites historically have been used before, or have been just recently constructed as a subdivision. So there's often an issue with engineered fill, whether it's been placed appropriately, or indeed whether it's not engineered at all, and it creates poor ground conditions for your foundations again.
Mm-hmm. I see.
And the last risk, which is more to do with perhaps the larger subdivision type work, but often land has been used for horticultural purposes, and in this day and age of environmental sensitivity, people like to know whether that ground has actually been impacted by pesticides and fertilizers, etc. So contaminated land is also a risk that sometimes needs to be considered.
That's right. And you deal with both residential sites and areas where people want to just subdivide their land.
Absolutely. Yeah. GCL has worked in this area, residential development, for the last 10-12 years. So we've done significant subdivision work, yes. Sort of 50-60 lots. And we also work with the individual on smaller individual sites.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great, yes. So could you tell me in a few words, Peter, what is GCL's approach to geotech assessments? if there is such a thing?
Of course, there is no one approach. Basically, it very much depends on the project and on the client's requirements, and also the stage of the project at which we're being commissioned. For example, it might be pre-purchase due diligence, or it might be for actual design for building consent. So the reporting and our approach will change accordingly to that. For pre-purchase, for example, we would recommend just a desktop study. So that provides like a first pass on the ground conditions and tries to identify some of those potential constraints or liabilities or risks that might be associated with that site. Basically, we're trying to find some showstoppers if there are any. Hopefully not.
Yes, and I've noticed a trend from the buyers to actually have a geotechnical report done earlier on, so they know what they're dealing with. That's
right.
Probably you seeing that as well in your work.
That's right. It's a pre-purchase check. It's a really good idea. As I said before, it's a very large investment.
Yes.
So you want to know what you're dealing with. If more certainty is needed, then we can actually complete an intrusive site investigation. So, for example, test pits and mapping, and in some cases perhaps boreholes or CPTs. And this means that we actually are opening up the ground, we're actually testing the ground, and we can therefore make comment in our report on the specific ground conditions, the foundation recommendations, provide design parameters, and obviously go on and discuss some of the larger issues such as liquefaction or slope stability.
I see. So it can be as in depth or as it
Again,
goes.
it depends on the nature of the project and how much certainty and how much due diligence your purchaser wants to do.
Right. Okay. So would you be able to summarize for me what would the benefits be for the purchaser to have geotechnical report done, and also for the sellers, because they probably needed to in this market?
Of course. Well, let's deal with the purchasers first. So for a purchaser, having a geotech report on the site gives a sense of certainty about what they are buying. It's like having a mechanic do a pre-purchase on your car, making sure that everything's working well.
Yes, that's a great comparison.
Yeah. Land and sections in the Queenstown area they're not cheap. They're pretty expensive, and it's a significant investment for the purchaser. And whilst the ultimate is to build a nice house to live in, what you're actually buying is the ground. So let's make sure you know exactly what it is that you're buying. And obviously a geotech report early on will assist you immensely with early design. It will save you money in the long term because commensurate foundations can be designed accordingly right from the word go. If you know that there's going to be earthworks, that can be brought into your budget, and make sure you know exactly what you're buying and what you're paying for.
Well, that's right. That sort of saves people any nasty surprise that might be waiting there,
exactly.
and they can budget for it and go accordingly.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Now, for somebody selling the site, then actually having a geotech report demonstrates that there are no significant issues or constraints associated with that particular property, and it makes that site or that sale that much more attractive. And obviously, I mean, if you had two sites, one with a geotech warrant of fitness, if you like, and one that doesn't, which of those two sites is going to be more attractive to you as a purchaser?
Well, that's right. It comes down to the budget and a sensible decision for people. Yeah, I understand that. Oh, Peter, thank you very much for sharing your knowledge with us. It's been very informative. And I'll get your contact details at the end of the video, so people can come directly to you with any questions.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for
great.
your time.
I'm sure you agree with me that there was a very informative presentation from Peter, so feel free to contact him directly if you're a buyer wanting to buy a section and need more information, or a seller who's considering selling. And also feel free to contact me and we can talk about how to go from now.